Hello everyone and welcome back to the final part of this DLC. In this particular episode I'll be showing you guys, this is just me doing the final bits and pieces of the DLC that I did not do in the previous episodes. The previous episodes were a bit more spaced out, a bit more lengthy, but now I'll do a lot of chop editing just to focus on the key points of the last bits of pieces of what I did in the DLC. As you can see, I summoned a fellow NPC and a fellow player online to do the Fume Knight boss fight. The Fume Knight boss fight is challenging when you're on your own, so I will try to give some advice as to what to do when you're by yourself, but sadly I won't be able to show you that, as I decided to go easy on myself and summon one NPC and one actual player to aid me in this fight, as I wanted to do it as fast as possible so that I could start recording and processing these videos for you guys. But as you can see, the Fume Knight is the one protecting Nadalia's resting place. Of course, there's a lot of lore to that, and you can get a lot of lore from his soul after you defeat him. But some advice I would like to give you guys on the actual boss fight is that, as you can see, the Fume Knight has a standard great sword in his right hand, and then he's got an ultra great sword in the left hand. He wields both with one hand, but he does not power stance them. So what this means is that you have to be careful. If he did power stance these two weapons, then it would be easier to predict the movesets, as both weapons would potentially swing at the same time. But that is not actually the case. In his case, he swings both blades independently, or he two-hands the ultra great sword. So the best thing you can do if you're fighting him by yourself is bear in mind that each combo that starts with the normal great sword will always end with the wide arcing swing with the ultra great sword. And the reason this is so, well, at least the reason why I understand this is so, is that most of the normal great sword swings that the Fume Knight does are easy to roll and punish. But then if you're gonna punish them, for example, if you're swinging the great sword and then you decide to roll behind him to land some counter hit damage, it's of course necessary for him to cover his back. That's why all of the ultra great sword swings are very wide and arcing. I would advise the best ways to dodge these are either to dodge backwards or dodge forwards into them, but bear in mind the ultra great sword will do a lot of damage. So always know that each combo will end with it, and then prepare to dodge into him or away from him, then go in for the big damage. But as you can see, I've demonstrated just a few things here and there with the Fume Boss Knight himself. But I would advise that you do disable all the Ashen Idols that are around the boss room so that he does not heal himself. But it is challenging by yourself. If you are dying there, like I was, then don't take it too. Don't be too harsh on yourself. It is, I dare say, it is the most challenging boss in this DLC if you're gonna take him 1 versus 1. So after I was done with that, I decided to go back to the main chamber where there is the foyer bonfire, and then I went into the door towards the left hand side, opposite where you put the smeltering wedge, to disable this final Ashen Idol. Bear in mind that this place is shrouded in smoke, and the smoke will curse you. So what I decided to do is, this is a strategy you can apply yourself, is that you just suicide run in to disable the Ashen Idol, and then try die in a place that's safe to retrieve your souls. So that's what I did. I ran in, I avoided all enemies. There are quite a lot. Reason being is that you're gradually getting cursed. So the longer you take to kill the enemies, the more you'll get cursed. So I thought to myself, instead of having to deal with the enemies that get cursed multiple times, reducing my life bar, total life bar, instead what I can do is just go die once and then have 1 reduction on the life bar, then come back when the cursed fog is gone, since you'd have disabled the Ashen Idol. But then someone may argue to the fact that if you get cursed multiple times, it's not like you'll die, so you'll still have time to kill these guys and probably end up disabling the Ashen Idol after being cursed several times, and then everything's okay. You'll just use a human effigy. That's okay too. I just believe that for those who are running short on human effigies, or those who don't want to waste human effigies, I guess for them that would be a better deal to lose just a few small portions. Because if you just die once, chances are you only get a reduction of ×2. And then if you have no human effigies, then at least your life bar will still be long enough for the rest of the playthrough of the DLC. But for me, human effigies were not a problem. As you can see, I went straight back to human form just to look good for the videos. So it's all up to player preference. But besides that, it's not really all that much of a problem if you do decide to, well, if you do manage to disable the Ashen Idol, everything should be fine. This DLC as a whole has, I think it has been, let me think about my words before I say them. It has been more forgiving than the Crown of the Sunken King, and I believe it's more balanced out and it's more diverse, and that's a good thing, I guess. I'm just giving it a flat thumbs up. It's just a better DLC than the Sunken King in terms of balancing out enemy difficulties, but it has sometimes when it is actual difficulties, like the Sunken King's environment. The DLC of the Sunken King's environments were really difficult in terms of the enemies you'd face and the verticality of the levels. But with this one, it's not as vertical as the Sunken King, but then the boss fights are quite immense, and they're quite well done. So it's a give and take. The DLCs are rather different from each other. In this particular section, I was going deeper into the Broom Tower, and here was the longest portion, I guess, in this iron passage. Luckily enough, there is a bonfire, so before we get straight into it, I would advise you to get your Pringles and Coke. I've got myself some peach juice here. It's gonna be a while. When you walk in, there are some NPCs. One thing you have to understand about these NPCs is that they do very little damage. Like, the damage they do is very negligible. But one thing you have to understand is that they have a few Estus flasks, so they can serve you well as defenders and just to distract, but do not expect them to kill anyone. I think that's just the first mistake most players made when they went into this DLC. They actually thought that most of these NPCs were actually good NPCs, but that was definitely not the case. When you're in the Iron Passage, be warned that there will be some casters, and there will be some there will be casters and there will be melee opponents, so really you don't actually need to fight all of these guys. I guess I was just doing it to get the feel of the level, but there's literally no point. You could run from the Iron Passage bonfire straight to the boss without having to swing your blade even once. The best advice I could give you is you could just before you come to the Iron Passage, you could craft a very stable, for example, you could get a Drang-like shield and craft it with lightning or dark resistance, right? But lightning is better because that's the majority of the damage done by the casters. And then just come here and two-hand that fish. That's pretty much all you can do. Two-hand that shield, good lightning resistance, two-hand run to the end and finish. That's all you need to do. And then after that, you can switch out to whatever weapons you want when you actually get to the boss room battle. But I believe there's actually no need to fight these guys, especially if you have the two NPCs. The nice thing is, if you run out and leave them, if you get to the boss room and just enter, I guess it's not really considered a glitch or a abuse, but it's something that's existed within the Dark Souls games, in the sense that your NPCs will just, even if you left them behind like at the beginning and you ran past everything, they will instantly catch up to you and enter the boss room after a few moments. So you don't, like I said, you do not need to fight any of these guys at all. And the best thing you need to do is know where you're going. But someone may argue that, of course, they want to get souls to get more levels to make this experience a bit easier for themselves by leveling up. Sure, you can do that if you want, but I was not pressed for souls. I have capped out my character at level 155, so I really have zero use for souls. I've plus 10 and plus 5 all the weapons I need, or all the weapons I'm currently using. Any other weapons, I guess I can use the souls I have, but literally these souls I have, they're not even a lot. But considering that this character is not a PvP character, and me myself as a player don't do a lot of PvP, these souls are just wasted, pretty much. I have no use for them, and they're quite a lot to do nothing with, you know what I mean? That's why I actually wished within Dark Souls, especially when I was playing Dark Souls 1, I introduced a friend of mine to it, and I decided to do a faith build that used I was thinking of doing a faith build that used the Sunlight Blade buff with the bandit's knife and the Pharaoh's bow. It was just supposed to be a support type build with Wrath of Gods and Force and the mid-force and, you know, such miracles, and if need be I would attune a buff in the likes of Sunlight Blade, and it would be good to deal damage from afar pretty much while I aid my friend to finish the game. But sadly that didn't come out, that didn't end up happening. He ended up not liking the game. Sadly the guy got to Sen's Fortress. We were having connectivity problems because that was back when Dark Souls was still on, well, it still is, but it was the days of Games for Windows Live, and connecting to the people who are in different parts of the world was really a problem and a half. But at least back then I believe that it would have been good if, since you can trade items with people, it would have been amazing if you could give someone some of your souls, or you could give someone your souls, just your souls. Because if I can, for example, if I've got this character, I have 2 sets of armor which I think are good to defeat Sen's Fortress. So as soon as I can get into my friend's world, I'll be able to just give him the armor. Then I think to myself, since you're doing a certain type of build, here's a weapon that I think is actually beneficial to your build and will make this area a bit easier. You don't have to continue using it. I've just upgraded it enough for you to beat Sen's Fortress, and then you can use whatever weapon you want after that. That's fine. I give him the weapon. But then I come to realize that his stats are not enough to wield the weapon. There's pretty much nothing I can do to fix that problem. But if I could give my souls away, then I would be able to aid someone to further make life a bit easier for them, really taking that partnership to a whole new level. So I don't know. I honestly wish they would introduce that into Dark Souls games. After you defeat this boss, you get the Pharaoh's Mask. It's actually quite cool. I didn't equip it, sadly enough, but it's quite cool if you're gonna make something similar to a dwarf, because it's just a stout face with a long beard. It's a stone mask of a stout face with a beard. It's quite dwarven looking. It's quite amazing. You should give it out a try. I actually like the design of the Pharaoh's Mask. It's actually quite an interesting bit of lore. After that, I decided to go back up to the higher levels, and there was I think I was looking for more Ashen Idols, I would believe. So I took the elevator up, all the way up, and then I came to the Prowlers. And the Prowlers are berserker NPCs that will invade your world to protect this particular Ashen Idol. I don't know if they're actually protecting the Ashen Idol or they just spawn there for an unknown reason, but I've just come to believe that whoever these Prowlers are stopping people from either disabling this particular Ashen Idol, or they're actually stopping intruders from accessing the memory of Sir alone. So it kind of makes sense for the prowlers to exist in this time, because if they're protecting, first of all, they use katanas, they use berserker's blades, and Sir Alone also uses a berserker's blade, and he does actually wear armor similar to Shiva's armor in Dark Souls 1. It's got this Eastern style design of a typical, well, not a typical, but it's got the design of a warrior, samurai warrior from ancient times. So you could argue that these prowlers are actually defenders of his armor, who are here to stop anyone from getting his armor, taking it, because you find his armor here. But of course, Sir Alone is long gone. It doesn't actually say if it's, well, I never checked, but it doesn't say that Sir Alone is dead. But this is his memory, of course, so I'd assume that he died at some particular point in time, and his armor still has a faint sense of his soul. His soul still exists within his armor, hence why you can access his memory. So here what I decided to do was I lit the bonfire, but I couldn't sit on it because these guys were chasing me really badly. So what I did is I lured them away from the bonfire, then I actually homeward boned back to the same bonfire. That's actually, when I did that, I felt so good about myself. I was like, yo! I took the AI for a ride. It was actually quite amazing. So as soon as you're done there, you can actually just access the memory. I don't actually think you need anything to access this memory. You literally can just walk in, and from there you are, like all other memories within Dark Souls 2, you are given a timer. So I didn't spend a lot of time doing this memory at all. Instead, what I did is, I think I may have died once, I'm not sure, but I assume, no, I know what I did. On my first run, what I decided to do was actually kill all the enemies within the memory just to see the layout structure. And then I went straight to the boss fight. Then I died at the boss fight, and then I ran through it the second time. But I will definitely cut that out for the sake of time. Funnily enough, here you will find Alone Knights. Well, not funnily enough, it is the memory of Sir Alone. So it kind of it gives you, it kind of backs up the fact that the Knights of Alone were not named after a particular land. They were actually named after their general, and I would believe that Alone was the general of these knights, and he was entrusted by the Old Iron King to look after this place. It is said from his armored description, or from his lore, that he came from the east with particular talents and skills, and his fighting style was very different. His techniques were very amazing, and this aroused the Old Iron King's interest within his fighting techniques. He wanted to learn more and entrusted in to so much, and he was like, please show me. He was like, show me what you can do, maybe we can start an order in your name and train these knights in your name. So it was just an interesting bit of knowledge to know that even the Old Iron King acknowledged that there are stronger beings in this world, and he entrusted one such strong person to start an order in his own kingdom to protect his land. I would assume the Alone Knights are here to protect his land. But you never know. Anything is possible. So here we're still just making it through, killing a few salamanders, killing a few Alone Knights. It's not really a challenging area, especially if you have summons. Like I said, these particular DLCs, if you really want to take it easy, and I could say activate a form of easy mode, definitely get some NPCs, because usually in the game is less forgiving. The NPCs do a lot of damage, but they die a bit quickly, so it kind of cancels each other out. But here they've got a lot and a lot and a lot of HP, and they can actually heal themselves even though their damage is bad. So it is balanced, but I dare say that NPCs with more health are more make the game a bit more easier as compared to NPCs that have high damage but very little HP. And funnily enough, there isn't a lone captain within this. There's actually only one captain amongst this rank on the first floor. Why that's the case, I don't know. Why these knights are here sitting with salamanders, I'm not actually sure what the whole gist is with that, but the challenge itself is not too great if you don't get overwhelmed by yourself. There is a small little trap in the sense that if you're not looking, you could fall all the way down and lose a portion of your HP, but if you have high enough HP, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Now, in the lower floor, there are a lot of alone knights that lead up to the boss room, and there is places to fall down and get trapped. Well, not get trapped, but you can fall down, and you will definitely need to run all the way back up, but then you could get either backstabbed in the sense that you get surrounded, and it kind of makes the place a bit more difficult. But there could be some items down there. I never actually went down to check. I went straight in for the boss fight. So after I died the first time in the boss fight, I made a quick run back in, and here's how it went. So pretty much after that, I decided to go. I realized that my souls of I hadn't acquired the entire soul of Nadalia, so I was wondering to myself, I was like, did I miss something? And I was scratching my head the whole afternoon thinking, my word, I should have all the souls of Nadalia. Then I realized one of the upper level elevators led me to a place with the giant. So I headed up there, and I could hear from the sound that there was something hiding behind one of the closed doors, and I guess I was lucky enough to find out that it was the final piece of Nadalia's soul. For people who do not know, there are 12 pieces to Nadalia's soul. You'll get one piece of Nadalia's soul by defeating you should get, I would assume 11 pieces are found within the tower itself. And then the final piece of a soul you will obtain by either defeating the Fume Knight or Sir Alon. I think it's Sir Alon, but I do not actually remember which one actually gave you the item drop. But either way, if you defeat both bosses, you should guarantee yourself the soul. So when you obtain her soul, you will be able to trade in her soul for equipment or weapon if you go to Onifex, but I decided to just keep it for now. Like I said, this build is complete and I really don't need to change it. I guess I could try out the Fume Ultra Great Sword, I could try out Alon's Katana, but for now I really have no use for it. We'll see how it goes. I might decide to respec this character for the next DLC, which is the Crown of the Ivory King, but I definitely will have a change of armor. I now want some heavier armor with a lot of defense, just to check out how I play with that. But in terms of weapon uses, I think I might just decide to get the Fume Ultra Great Sword and Sir Alon's Katana, and we'll see how that fares. Decided to pick up the last few items, a few soul items, a few weapons. I enjoy the fact that these DLCs actually give item drops of already upgraded equipment. There are some weapons that I've wanted, for example the Partisan. I've always wanted to use it in Dāku Souru Tsu, but I was too lazy to go find Titanite and upgrade it and waste large Titanite chunks and slabs, etc. But now that, for example, they'll give you a +7 Partisan, you will have an idea of what the weapon does. So that was the Crown of the Old Iron King. Thank you for all the time you spent watching, and I guess this weekend special series will continue on the next part of the DLC. But for now, the king shall return to the throne.